100, and I'm so happy that you've joined me on another Saturday for another amazing episode. On today's episode, I'm going to be musing about being your neighbor's keeper. The reason I've come to this topic is because I was thinking about last week but one's movie, that is The Wildflower, and I saw how Rolly came forward to take in her neighbor's kids after their mother had been killed by their father. And that got me thinking, like, how many people would do something like that? How many people in this world would you do something like that? Like, if your neighbor passed on in this day and age, would you look at their kids and be like, yeah, because they have nobody else at the moment, I can take them in for whatever duration, or I can just take them in and raise them as long as the government agrees and stuff like that, because you have to make sure that it's legal for you to take care of them. The government has to know that they're under your care. So is that something you will do? Or do you know anybody who could just do that? Because I remember seeing that when she came out and she was like, yeah, I'm going to take care of them. I was like, yes, please do it. Because I didn't want the girls to be by themselves and their dad was not going to be taking care of them. If anything, he should have ended up in prison very, very quickly. But then, systems, they take time before they work. And this man ran away. And Rolly took them in, even though her boyfriend was against it, and he was like, you don't make the right decisions and stuff like that. Like, he was undermining her decision to take care of the kids. And I was like, so where do you want them to go? Did he expect her to just be like, I don't care, you are not my blood relatives, you're not my kin, so I do not care where you end up? And she would have just turned her back on them and moved on. Because, like, would you be your neighbor's keeper? That's the question. Because it was a tough decision and she didn't think about it too much. It was just like, yeah, I'm going to do it. Is that something you would be willing to do? And I remember also in the same movie, Lamide, this is the secretary that was working with Rolly at the company. This woman, I did not talk about that part while I was doing the synopsis for the movie. But when they went to court, if you have watched the movie by now, you should know this. If you haven't, please go and watch, because I believe it's about to get out of Netflix in 2 days. Today is the 18th and it will be off Netflix on the 20th. So if you have not watched it yet, go and watch it now. So Lamide was the secretary at the company. I don't know if the boss had never touched her, or he was never interested in her, or he had and she was just okay with it. I do not understand. Or she just never knew what the boss was doing to his personal assistants. Because when Rolly came back to the company and she was like, who is this other woman on my desk? When she came back and she found Kachi sitting there, and this boss walked out and spoke to Kachi as if, Rolly did not exist. When Rolly was leaving, she told her, like, Lamide, like, I just hope the other lady, the other girl, knows what she's getting herself into. Lamide was confused. She didn't know what was happening. She was like, I thought you knew, because when you refused to go on the trip with him, he thought that you didn't want to work here anymore, something like that. But then at the court, she took the boss's side and she lied in front of the court. She said that when she called to Rolly to tell her about the business trip that the boss wanted them to go to South Africa, Rolly had insulted the boss and insulted the company and had said some very bad things that even Lamide could not repeat in front of the people in the court. Those were her words. I mean, how do you lie about a fellow woman like that in such a situation? A fellow woman comes and tells you that, hey, our boss took advantage of me. And instead of taking her side, you take the boss's side, no matter how much money he has paid you. There's some things that are just human. You cannot take the oppressor's side. You're supposed to take the victim's side. Especially in a situation where you think the victim might be telling the truth. Because let's be honest, there are some people who lie about such situations, and it's very unfortunate because they take away the power from the people who have actually been wronged and they're trying to seek, for justice. So there are people who lie and it just makes the other people look like they're also lying. So when Lamide, another woman, speaks in front of a judge, in front of like you're in court, and claims that this like Rolly was lying, I was like, yo, really? Really? Haven't you ever asked yourself why every woman comes to work for this man and after they go out of town with him for business, when they come back, they quit or they get fired? Haven't you ever asked yourself why that happens? Because she was okay lying in court about what had happened, saying that Rolly insulted the boss and the company. And I was like, really? Stone faced, looking at her in front of her, not caring that she was crying because she couldn't believe what she was saying. Hey, that is not being your neighbor's keeper, y'all. That is just not being human. Because there's nothing that would have ever excused her behavior. And I wish that when he was arrested, I wish that she would have been arrested as well. Because she lied in court. She did. That lawyer who was representing Mr. Gowon, that lawyer also, I know he's doing his job, and his job is to protect and, try to prove that his client is innocent. But how do you take such a case? Like, I think the reason I'm not into certain careers, or I didn't make certain career choices, is because I wouldn't. I'm not saying that I'm smart enough to be a lawyer. I know I'm smart, but I'm not smart enough to be a lawyer or a doctor. But the reason I didn't take certain careers is because I wouldn't be able to do that. Because they say, in order for you to be able to advocate for your client in the best way possible, you're not supposed to ask them if they're innocent or guilty. You're just supposed to represent them and try to prove that they're innocent. And so I get that. But in this situation, he knew that he was guilty because of the way he was behaving, because of the things that he was saying, this go on guy. And the lawyer knew. And he still went ahead and represented him, trying to portray Rolly as this woman who threw herself at her boss. And when things were done, she cried wolf. Like, how do you do that to a fellow human being? That is not being your brother's keeper. That is not being your neighbor's keeper. Because who does that? Like, why would you do that? Why? The other person was John Tanner's mom. This woman, she knows her son. You raised that man. You raised that bastard. When you have raised a hypocritical bastard, when you have raised a brat, when you have raised a pervert, when you have raised somebody like that, I know you're not supposed to blame the parents, but at some point, there's a point in your life as a parent that you know how terrible your child can be and how good they can be. You know they're so terrible that if somebody came and told you your child did this, I think a part of you will go like, I believe. I believe that they did. But this woman came, insulting Ada and saying, she actually insulted Ada, telling her, why would my son want to take advantage of you? Like, you look like I don't know what. And she insulted her, as if predators choose the people that they are going to prey on because of the way they look, because of the way they are dressed. They are just predators. Whoever is in front of them, they'll do it because that is what feeds them. They just want that. They just want to ruin someone's life. They just want to hurt somebody for their own pleasure, regardless of what the other person feels or wants. And so for this mom to come and do that, and her being a woman as well, and insult this child, instead of going to face her son, she wanted Ada to go to prison because she hit her son while she was defending herself. I usually watch these movies and I think about them later on after I've already like watched and done the review. I'm just like in the house and it comes back into my mind and I'm like, yo, that was some effed up shit that was happening in that movie, right? Because I was thinking about this and then I was just like, these people are just terrible. Other than Rolly and the doctor, of course, because there's a doctor who took care of her, Dr. Naomi. Those They were so nice. Rolly took care of the neighbor's kids. Dr. Nomi took care of Ada, and she also took care of Rolly and advised her on who to go to help her when it came to, trying to seek for justice and in what had happened to her. And these people are good. These were their neighbors' keepers. Like, they took care of the people. But then most of the other people did not. They did not, and they just did not care. And I know I'm talking about a movie, but then, movies and TV shows, they portray what happens in society. And a lot of things happen in the society, and we look at them and we just, brush past them as if nothing is happening. But when you sit down with your thoughts and you look at situations and you think about what has happened, you come to realize that, I'm not my neighbor's keeper. I'm not my brother's keeper. I'm not a really nice person. I'm not even kind. And no matter how much you want to think that you are these things. Because a couple of years ago, there's a neighbor of mine. He moved out of this flat that we live in, but he used to be my neighbor. And I remember there's a time I was at home. He was not even at work. He was at a friend's place. They were having, I think, a party. It was a Saturday. And he calls me because it was drizzling where he was. And where he was and where I live, they're not so far. So he thought that it would be drizzling here as well. So I remember he called me and he asked me to go and remove his clothes for him from the wireline upstairs. And I was sick. I wasn't feeling so well, but I still went and did it because he was my friend, he was my neighbor. And I went upstairs and did it with plus his shoes and everything. Kept them here for him until he came back, and then he took them. The shoes, I put them on his window so that they could still continue drying and stuff away from the rain. And my question is, how many of you will do that for your neighbor? Like, if you saw that your neighbor had hung their clothes, especially for those people who have these houses where the balconies are the front of the houses and you just hang your clothes there. Like, not the ones that the balcony is at the back of, like, you have to go through their house to get to the balcony. You get to the balcony through, like, the front doors, like, you can just see their clothes. If you saw a neighbor had washed their clothes and they had left them on the wireline and they went to work, and you're at home and it started drizzling, it started raining, would you remove them from the wireline for them and keep them for them until they came home? Or would you be like, that's none of my business? That's on them. They can come, or like they knew it was going to rain or whatever, or just, ignore, like you aren't also home. What would you do? Because I did it, and it wasn't the first time that I did it either, by the way. When I used to live in Githurai, I remember I had two neighbors that I was close to, and I remember both of them I did. I remember Wambo, most of the time she'll go to work, and when I was off and I had done my laundry as well, and then it started raining, I would remove my clothes and I would remove hers as well and keep them for her. When she came, I'll give them to her. And I don't know, it made me feel good. And it's just sort of that thing where you're like, I'm doing this so that just in case I ever am in the situation that they are in, like it's my clothes that are on the wireline and I'm not at home, instead of them leaving them to be rained on, they can also go like, oh, I'll also remove them for her. And Wambo did that for me one time because I had done it for her a couple of times. So one time I was away and it started raining, she removed the clothes for me from the wireline, which was very, very good. Another thing that neighbors do, again, concerning the clothes on the wire line, there's something that I've realized here. Whenever I like hang my sheets, because I have these big sheets, whenever I hang them and they're dry, because I'll wash them like today and I'll let them sleep outside through the night. The next day, somebody might do their laundry and go and hang them next to mine. Now, theirs are wet. My sheet is like very, very long, very, very big. So what they do is that they fold it on top of the line where it is so that it's not hanging, and their clothes while they are drying, they don't get them wet. Yo, anytime that I go upstairs and I see that a neighbor did that before hanging their clothes, I'm like, this is a neighbor's keeper. This one is blessed by God. Like, may God bless them. I remember the first time I saw it, I was like, what the hell? Why would somebody do like this? And why would somebody do this? Why would they? Why would they? And then I realized why they did it. And I was like, oh my God, that is actually such a good thing that they did. That is such an amazing thing. That way my sheet do not get wet. And you know, sometimes people do not rinse their clothes very, very well. So you might have washed yours and somebody else comes and hangs their clothes next to yours, and they are wet and they are smelling, I don't know what. And then you go to get your clothes and they dried, smelling something that was not there before. And you're like, what happened? And then you're walking by the other clothes and you're like, oh my God, they're smelling like these clothes. And it's just disgusting. So when I find people have done that, like they folded my sheet so that it doesn't hang and get wet, that is just such a neighborly thing to do. And I love it, honestly. I just do, and I appreciate it. And it's not just that about the violence, it's about anything. You know, there are a lot of things that have happened, especially since I've lived by myself, that I've been like, yeah, these people have been nice. I remember at some time I would come from work, I don't want to cook. And another neighbor used to be here, and I'll be like, actually, even the neighbor that I and hang his clothes for, I would be like, today I do not feel like cooking. Will you please uh, count me in your while you're cooking dinner? And he would, even if he wasn't around. And he had a friend, because he used to have a lot of his friends, he used to host a lot of his friends at his place. He will call that friend and be like, hey, cook dinner and then take a plate to house number blah blah. And then I'll be at the house and I'll get a knock. I'll hear a knock on the door. I'd open and somebody's there with a plate of food. Like, I miss having such neighbors. The neighbors I have right now, they're not bad. It's just that I haven't made a step to like be friendly or anything, because everyone that I had that I was close with, they all left. And so all these new ones, ish, it's just hard to make friends in your 30s. And nowadays in Nairobi, everybody wants to be by themselves and everybody wants to mind their own business. And so it's hard to just start creating friendships. And it took time before I was close to the other guys. So these ones, I just don't know. Yeah, so there are a lot of things that actually can happen, that you can do, that can show that you're a neighbor's keeper. But my question, as I said, is, are you your neighbor's keeper? Have you done anything that you've looked at and you are like proud of yourself because you are like, yeah, I did something amazing? There could be a lot of examples that I could think of, but not at the moment. It's late. I want to go to bed. I just wanted to record this before going to bed. And as I said, I thought about that movie and I was thinking a lot about what happened in it. And I was like, that is such a good thing that Ruli did. She took those girls in and she took care of them. I wish they had a Wildflower part 2, so that you could see just how their life became, you know, maybe how the girls grew up until they left her care and stuff like that. I'm sure there are others that such things have happened in. But yeah, in this one, I just want to talk about that because I remembered it afterwards. And I was like, that's such a good thing that she did. And I didn't like what Lamide did. She was not a good person, like, at all. And a lot of people are like that. You can see, especially with the way communities are right now. As I said before, you are not allowed to beat your neighbor's kid, even if they're doing something wrong. We're just supposed to look and walk away. And it's the same thing like with music. Your neighbor is playing loud music, like, yo. Sometimes I wake up to neighbors playing loud music, so loud that it's shaking my window, shaking my door, and that is what wakes me up. And I'm like, don't you guys just think about other people? It's too early in the morning. At least start playing music by 10 or 11. But at 7, at 8, and you just don't care. Like the ones who usually talk up to 12 and 1 and 2, and they're talking and they're making noise and they're laughing and their music is high. And you're like, it's past 12 midnight. What are you doing with your music that loud? Because I have a neighbor who sleeps by, I think, 9 or 10. And the other neighbors, they just don't care. There's a time that one neighbor had to go to knock on this door and tell them to shut the music they had put so high, because it was at 8 in the morning on a Sunday, where people sleep in on Sundays because they go to work from Monday to Saturday. Sunday, they'll sleep a little bit in and go for the mass either from 11 or in the afternoon at 2. So in the morning, they'll want to sleep in. Now imagine you're trying to sleep in and somebody is playing music, loud music at that time. What would you do? They're not being their neighbor's keeper. And they usually don't care. But anyway, yeah, let me end it at that. Just try to be a good neighbor. Try to be your neighbor's keeper as well. I mean, that's all we can do. Like, love starts with you and me. I show you love, you show me love. I show you respect, you show me respect. I show you gratitude, you show me gratitude. And without these things, then the world is just chaotic, you know? People are just grabbing at whatever they want and they're not caring about the other people. You saw what happened at the UN. The US and Israel did not want to vote. And was it Argentina? They voted no for slavery being recognized as one of the worst crimes on humanity or something like that. And Israel and the US also voted no on food being an important need for humans or something, because of what Israel was doing to the people in Gaza. Like, they're not being their neighbors' keepers at all. At all, at all, at all. And they think they're right. For whatever reason, they think they're right. So, anyway, that's life. I just hope that people are going to be better, that the world is going to change, and we're going to do much, much better. Okay? So, yeah. I'm going to leave it at that. Tell me in the comment section if you are your neighbor's keeper. Tell me examples of what you have done or what your neighbors did for you that you are like, oh my God, this is my neighbor being my keeper or something like that. Okay, tell me in the comment section. Go to Instagram and to TikTok, and please remember to follow me there. Please like, share, subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications so that whenever I upload something new, you're going to be amongst the first people to come and watch. Okay,